So I thought I would give a bit of information about how I got into specifically the dating and relationship coaching. I was, as my bio mentioned, in the software industry for 20 years. So I've had a lot of folks ask me when I decided to go into coaching, why the focus on dating and relationships. And the honest answer was because I was really irritated. The reason I was irritated is seriously, I mean, it's an honest answer. I just kept getting irritated. Up until meeting my husband, Andy, had a really rocky personal relationship from a dating perspective. The history, I was pretty much consistently rejected in high school for being too something, too tall, too smart, too geeky, too poor, I was a total geek in high school. And just, too independent. I was often told if I wanted to get a boyfriend, I was going to have to play dumb, act more like a cheerleader, be more girly, which just none of that really fit for me. So I just dealt with being single through high school. Every single relationship I had, including my first marriage, so the relationships I had in college and my first marriage, ended because of my partner's infidelity. So I was single in 2001, living in a new town in Atlanta, and basically had to figure out what was I doing wrong? Like, why was I continuing to choose the wrong partner? And I spent about 7 years answering that question of, what can I do differently to have more success in my relationships? And, was basically following Einstein's definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So I decided I was going to start making different choices. And I figured out what those choices needed to be, and it worked. So I've been with my husband for 5 years, very happily married. We have a very stable, secure, open, comfortable relationship. Couldn't be happier. So I'm sure you're probably wondering, why am I irritated if my life is really great at this point? But the reason I was irritated is nobody told me that it could be the way it is now. Looking back, there were so many things where I was like, I wish somebody had told me that I didn't have to put up with partners who wanted me to be less than, to make myself smaller, to make them more comfortable. Nobody told me that I could choose the type of person that I wanted to fall in love with. I don't believe that you can choose who you fall in love with, but I do believe that you can choose the type of person you choose to spend your time with, and that can lead to you deciding the type of person that you're going to fall in love with and have a relationship with. But nobody told me that. Nobody told me that I could set boundaries and hold to them and be respected for it. Nobody told me that I had the power to create the type of relationship that I wanted. And basically the messaging was, your eyes meet across a crowded room, you get butterflies, and you just go from there. But obviously that didn't work out really well for me. But being able to make those decisions and make the choices and make conscious decisions about the relationship I wanted, and to then go forward and create it, did work for me. So I had my little temper tantrum, which was very therapeutic. So if you ever want therapeutic temper tantrum, let Dr. Blaine know. But what I figured out was the reason nobody was telling me that it could have been different or should have been different was because nobody knew that. If you look at what we're taught in our culture, the images and the voices and the stories, whether they're, the fairy tales that were read as children, the TV shows that we see, the romantic comedies that we see, all of that teaches us that when it comes to love relationships, we're at the mercy of fate. We just need to be patient. We need to become somebody other than who we are by wearing the right clothes, drinking the right beverages, driving the right car, thinking the right thoughts, behaving the right way. We just need to wait around and be rescued by apparently Richard Gere driving around in a big white limo. Or we need to wait for the person that we're in love with to grow up and realize that we're really the one for them, so they can stop being an idiot and actually be nice to us. I mean, those are really, if anybody's getting any different messages from our culture and society, I'd love to know about it, because I'm not seeing them out there. And I think that's really the problem. I think there's nobody is standing up, raising their hand and saying, this is not working. And one of the many things I learned in my corporate life was that usually the person that recognizes the problem and cares enough to complain about it is probably the right person to actually do something about the problem and offer the solution. So that's why I decided to go into the dating and relationship coaching, because I figured if it bothered me as much as it bothered me, that I was probably the perfect person to come forward with an alternative. So that's what I'm doing. One of the ways I describe myself is, you know, if I were a fairy tale character, I would be the little boy in the story that says, excuse me, but the emperor's naked. And that's how I view what I'm doing about dating and relationships. One of my big goals is to debunk all of the dating myths that we're constantly being inundated with. For example, settling, I don't believe in it. I don't think you should ever settle. I mean, there's a difference between compromising and settling. There's a big difference there. Being less than to attract a partner is a load of crap, in my opinion. I don't believe in shoulds. The word should, especially when it comes to feelings and emotions, it's worthless unless you're really into shame spirals, which I'm not a big fan of. And as far as choices are concerned, I think you always have one. Always. Doesn't mean you like either one of the choices, but you always have a choice. And so taking those beliefs and being willing and able to see things as they are, and then, as I mentioned in my bio, I'm a big fan of honesty. You know, people don't pay me to tell them what they want to hear. If they hire me, it's because they want to know what I think based on my experience and what I've seen and what I know. So I'll tell my clients, I mean, I'm kind about it, but I do tell them the truth, and I tell it to them straight. So, you know, they can take my advice or not, but you're not gonna find me as a yes person. And I work with all manner of single folks. Again, the folks that are tired of waiting around to be rescued, or for that certain someone to decide that they're gonna stop being an idiot. If they're tired of being told that they're too something, too picky, too smart, too successful, too independent, too much of a tomboy, too direct. And especially if they understand personality and responsibility. If somebody wants to work with me, I think it's important for them to recognize that they are one of the biggest components in their relationships and how they go, and that they have choices and they do have some personal responsibility for how they got where they are and how they're going to get where they want to go. And if you're already in a relationship, I can help folks if you're ready to admit that, you know, shock of all shocks, that your partner actually can't read your mind, and that they don't automatically just know what you want, what you think, and what you feel. I'm good at helping folks figure out how to start those dialogues and have those kind of conversations. Or if you keep having the same conversation over and over again, and you're willing to decide that maybe you're really not having that big argument about the socks being left on the couch again, that it might actually be about something else. So that's a little bit about how I got to where I am and the types of folks that I work with. I don't know that I had enough copies, but I did send around, it's actually a little graphic that is, this is based on a blog post that I wrote recently. It's the 10 things that my 3 dogs taught me about dating. If you didn't get a copy and you'd like one, I can either print one out or email it to you. And I also sent around a copy of a pretty lengthy testimonial that I recently got from a client. But that was really all I wanted to share with you guys. And if I have any time left, I was going to leave it open for questions, because I know what I do is a little different and new for most of you. So if you have any questions.
Do you work with any men that come to you with dating advice, or mostly women?
It's mostly been women. I have had one gentleman whose mother referred him. He came to me, but it's because his mom knew me, and he
make a movie like that.
Yes, he actually self-described himself as a failure to launch. For those of you
His last name wasn't Bates, was it?
I'm sorry?
His last name wasn't Bates.
No, thankfully it wasn't Bates. But it's mostly been women, but honestly I think it's because when you say dating and relationship coach, if you've ever done any research or seen what most of those sites look like, I don't blame guys for not thinking that they would want to work with one. So I'm open to working with men, but it's been mostly women that have come to me at this point. Yes?
How's what you do different than someone like Blaine, for example?
Oh, thanks, Tom.
Sounds
I-
like a moderator on the presidential debate.
I focus more on the moving forward and one of the things that I don't like
Plates
is
moving
when,
backwards.
regardless of the kind of coach that it is, like a lot of consultants, which is really what a coach is, will talk a lot about what you should do, but they don't talk about the how. You know, it's like, it's great, you know, if someone says you should get out there more and date more, it's like, okay, great. How do I do that? Like, how do you help me do that? So I really focus more on the action and the how and moving forward. The goal of what I do isn't really to heal anything or necessarily help anybody understand anything. It's more of just helping them look at whatever they feel like is a stumbling block for them and then figuring out a way around it. And happy to have you weigh in, Dr. Blaine, but.
If somebody were, let's say, went through a divorce or a loss or a loss of a relationship, and they were depressed or they had some sort of adjustment reaction or they were anxious or had panic disorder or something like that, I would try to treat that probably first before, and would actually refer somebody like that probably to Kellie, because they would need, because they do, that's part of the whole moving on process, and she, you know, because I can't leave my office a lot of times because I'm booked hour by hour. She would actually be able to go and spend time with them and talk with them more about and coach them, literally, you know, almost like hiring a trainer, you know, if you were to run a marathon or something like that. So that's how we really overlap rather than compete so much. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yes, Ryan.
Is it okay to have a paralyzing figure committee?
Is it okay?
Also
as a coach, my
also
answer
curious
would
about
be,
that.
as long as you're happy with it. I mean, if you don't. Honestly, there's no. I mean, there really isn't, and that's one of the things that I think is different about me. I don't think there's anything wrong with any approach that someone wants to take to a relationship. I don't think anybody has to get married. I don't think anybody has to be in a relationship. I think my approach is very individual in the results. You know, if you come to me and tell me what you're looking for, and if you're happy with your life and you're not having any problems with it, and it's not, you know, keeping you up at night and not causing any conflict, I think from my perspective, now Dr. Blaine may have a different answer, since you used the word paralyzing fear.
Well, the thing is, though, it's interesting. 1 out of around 18 people don't marry at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, I mean, the whole thing is that 95% of people marry and 5% don't. That's, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
It's rounded up, but about 1 out of 18 people do. And I teach that. That's one of the.
I have several
teach at
friends in their
UGA, so,
50s who've never even been engaged,
Yeah.
and they're happy. I mean,
And they're happy. Yeah.
and that's the thing. I mean, it's
Nothing wrong
not.
with that.
Nobody else gets to decide. So if you need a note from me and from Dr. Blaine, you can send it
Wow.
is it it? Okay. All right. Well, if anybody has any questions, I'm always available for one-on-ones, and we'd be happy to get together and answer any questions that you have.